Hi, my name is Sarah Horn, and I work for the Career Development and Community Engagement Department at UWF. And today I'm going to be talking to you about some of the principles for writing a winning resume. So, when we're writing a resume, this is what we want to avoid. We want to avoid the only content on our resume being that we were once a high school student or, something that's a little bit less impressive to employers. So, this is a kind of screenshot from the show The Bachelor, and usually they'll include the contestant's occupation on this line, but it looks like this gentleman didn't have anything except that he was a former child. So, this is what we want to avoid. We want to fill our resume with lots of useful information. So a resume is a personal summary of your professional history and qualifications. And I think the operating word here is summary. It's not supposed to be an essay or a narrative of who you are. It's supposed to give very quickly the information about your candidacy for a certain position. It can include your educational background, your work experience or volunteer experience, even career goals, any honors or activities that you have been a part of, and any other skills that are relevant to the position you're applying for. There's no perfect way to write a resume, but there are two things that you want to keep in mind. You need your resume to be error-free, so no spelling errors and no grammar errors, and it needs to be truthful. So make sure that you are being honest and truthful with the information you include, and try to avoid exaggerating your resume. And our strong recommendation in terms of writing a well-written resume is to avoid using templates. Templates can be challenging because the formatting is sometimes locked into templates, so it's hard to customize them. And templates are also commonly used by other job seekers, so your resume may not stand out as much as you would like if you use a template. So if you're not using a template, we recommend using Microsoft Word to start from a plain blank Word document. There are three styles of resumes that you have the option to choose. The first is a chronological resume. This is a resume that is listed in chronological order. So all of your employment information, education information, etc. is listed in reverse chronological order, meaning that the most recent thing appears first, followed by less recent things. We also have functional resumes, which rather than emphasizing the timeline of your employment, it emphasizes the skills and abilities that you can contribute to the job and that you have exercised in your past experiences. A hybrid is a combination of both of these, and I'll show examples of all three of these. So in terms of the font that we choose, it's best to use a sans serif font because that is a little bit more modern than serif fonts. Examples of a sans serif are Arial, Helvetica, or Tahoma. You also want to keep your font between 10 and 12 points. If it's larger than 12 point, it's going to look like you don't have a lot of content to fill up the page. Your name can be 14-point font or even 16 or 18. And if you want, you can also use bolding and capitalization to help with the organization of your resume. So you might consider capitalizing the section headers just to indicate that this is a section header, and maybe you'll use bold for the name of your workplaces to indicate that that's what that is. When you're choosing a font, try to avoid any decorative or novelty fonts like on the left side of the screen, and try to avoid special effects in underlining and italics as much as you can. Consistency is really critical when you're writing your resume, so it's important to be consistent. So make sure that you're using the same bullet point style throughout, that your bullet points are indented at the same level on the document. Make sure that your fonts are consistent throughout, that your margins are consistent, and that you are abbreviating dates and states and formatting those in the same way. So if you're using the postal code abbreviation for your states, be sure to use that throughout. And the way that you format your dates is also critical. So if you're using the numerals to represent months, use that throughout. If you're abbreviating the months, use the abbreviations throughout. So proofreading is also very critical when writing your resume, so be sure to read it several times yourself, but also consider having other people review it. So you can reach out to the Office of Career Development and we would be happy to review your resume for you. But one typo really could cost you the interview because it shows the employer that you may not have a close attention to detail. So we want to avoid that. So let's go section by section through the resume, and we'll start with the header, which appears at the top of the document. It provides your contact information and is kind of the first impression because it's probably the first thing the employer is going to see. So you should include your name and your address and phone number, your email address, and your email should definitely be professional. You should also include a link to your LinkedIn page or perhaps an e-portfolio if you have one of those. And if the job that you're seeking might require you to be adept at social media, you could also consider including some of your social media handles, but that comes with the caveat that you should only include those if your social media accounts are appropriate. Here are some examples of a good header and a bad header. The good header shares the full mailing address, including the zip code. It also includes a professional email, a phone number, and a LinkedIn page. The less effective header has a small error in the word Florida, and it doesn't provide enough information about that person's geography to the employer. If you're uncomfortable including your full mailing address, at least include the city and state so the employer knows where you're located. You'll also want to include a professional email, so AnitaBaby77 is probably not terribly professional. When in doubt, use your UWF email. And then this is a small pet peeve of mine when people include a hyphen between the second set of parentheses and the second 3 digits of the phone number. If you're using parentheses, you don't need the hyphen right here. Okay, moving on to the objective statement. So the objective statement is a statement that often appears right after the header, and it gives the employer an idea of what you are seeking and what you can contribute to the job. So when you're writing your objective statement, you might want to consider the questions on the screen. So what position are you applying for? What are your qualifications? What are your goals? And what is your professional identity? Here's an example of a positive objective statement, and here's an example of a less positive objective statement. This objective statement identifies the name of the position that they are applying for, and it identifies what skills this person can contribute to the position if they were to receive it. This objective statement only says that they want a job so they can pay their rent, which is not a good reason for an employer to hire you. So we'll move on to the education section next. In your education section, you should include the name of the university where you have completed a degree or you have a degree in progress. You should also include the full degree title and the major that you are working toward or the major that you earned. You should also include the year and month that you graduated or expect to graduate, as well as the name of the university and its location, and perhaps including some additional information can help substantiate this section. So you can include coursework that you've taken, honors and awards, or accomplishments. My recommendation is to not include high school information if you are a sophomore or higher, because you should have some other type of experience to include on your resume. A couple of questions about education. If you received a degree or if you, attended an institution but did not receive a degree, should you include that? The answer is no. They're not really concerned that much about transfer credits. If my GPA is below a 3.0, we also recommend not including it. An employer is going to be really impressed if your GPA is above a 3.0. If not, they may not be interested in considering some of the reasons why that's a possibility. So it's not a big deal just to not include your GPA. Here are a couple of examples of education sections. The first one is effective. It provides the full degree title and the expected graduation date with information about their minor, the university that they attended, and some other information from their educational experience. The second education section is less effective because it doesn't list the degree title properly and it's not formatted very well. It doesn't list the location of this university or any details about these honors and awards. And they also include high school information in a less than pleasing format, and it's just generally not necessary at this stage in college. Now we'll move on to the experience section, which is used in chronological resumes, or the skills and abilities section, which is used in functional resumes. So for chronological resumes, you'll include an experience section. In that, you should include the name of the company or organization, as well as the location, the position title that you held, as well as the dates that you were employed at that organization or company. Then you'll use at least 2 bullet points to describe your responsibilities, duties, and achievements associated with those positions. You'll want to use bullet points again, and it's a little bit of an art to write good bullet points. The good bullet points will begin with an action verb, so verbs like develop or create or illustrate or design or assess. Those are examples of bullet points that are effective. Then you'll want to use journalistic questions to fill out the details of what you're trying to describe. So who, what, when, where, why, and how are really good guiding questions for you as you develop well-written bullet points. So the first step is to choose action verbs that show what you are doing. Then answer a few of those journalistic questions and perhaps quantify when possible. So here are a few examples. This is a good work experience section, and this is a less effective work experience section. So you'll notice the bullet points in the experience section on the top offer numbers and a substantial amount of information about what this person was doing. The less effective work experience section doesn't really offer any clear description of what was being performed. We don't know what type of data, for example, they were analyzing, and they don't know how. But this bullet point provides what type of software they were using to analyze this data. This position is not effectively demonstrated because it doesn't show the manner in which this person performed those duties, and it's hard to tell what skills this person could contribute in a future position. However, it's clear in this work experience section what types of skills and abilities this person could contribute to a position in the future. If you're using a skills and abilities section, the process for writing bullet points is really similar. The only difference is that you would categorize your bullet points according to skill categories rather than tying them to a specific position. This means that you can use bullet points that come from experience in your education or in extracurriculars and still include those in your resume in a meaningful way. So some skills that you might consider including in your skills and abilities section are here on the screen. These are skills that employees always want regardless of what they're hiring for. So things like communication, teamwork, technical skills, the ability to analyze, being able to write well. These are all really valuable skills that transfer well between job to job. So if you're not sure how to categorize those bullet points, these are a few examples. Here's an example of a functional resume. They've listed a few different skills that they can offer and then a few bullet points for how they have demonstrated those skills in the past. They also list a little employment section so that person can reference what types of jobs they have held in the past. There are some other information that you can include in your resume. You can include extracurriculars, awards and honors, membership in organizations. Volunteerism also looks really good on a resume. You can also include specific computer skills and language skills. Things that you should not include in your resume include headshot photos, hobbies and personal information, biographical details like your birthday or height and weight. That's not terribly necessary. High school information, which we spoke about before, personal pronouns. So the bullet points that you're using should be written as phrases, not full sentences. So when you're writing them as phrases, you don't actually have to use any pronouns because you're just starting with the verb and you're ignoring the subject. You also should not include any dishonest information or misleading information on your resume. You should do your due diligence to be honest and upfront. And you should also avoid using a lot of color or just over decorating your resume using fonts or different symbols and things. Try to keep it as simple as you can because it's going to be easier on the eye that way, and it's going to be more effective and it's going to be taken more seriously. A few guidelines as we wrap up. Write your resume yourself. There's no need to hire someone to do this. It's a very learnable skill, and your resume is a summary. So don't write paragraphs or excessive information. It should be quick. It should be about 1 page if you can help it, because employers actually don't spend more than about 7 or 8 seconds looking at resumes, so keep it short. Use phrases, start with verbs, and write from the employer's perspective. So continually ask yourself, what are the skills that this employer wants, and how can I show that I can contribute those skills? And also put the most important information on the top of the resume. I hope this has been a helpful tutorial about resume writing. I work for the Office of Career Development and Community Engagement. If you have any interest in meeting with a career coach to let us review your resume, please see the information on the screen, and we look forward to working with you. Have a great day and good luck.